Okay, it is 6 p.m., September 6th, and I'd like to call the Sutton Select Board meeting to order. And as always, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, this meeting of the Sutton Select Board is in a hybrid format with both in-person and Zoom component. To join the meeting, visit www.zoom.us/join and enter meeting ID 882-4404-7636, passcode 399929. The meeting will be broadcast and recorded on local public access station Verizon 31 and Charter Spectrum 191 and live streamed on the town's YouTube channel when available. All right. And we will do a roll call vote to signify if we're here in person or remote.
David Hall in person.
Jesse Lemanik, also in person.
Jonathan Anderson in person.
And Jeff Bannon in person. All right. I think that's all of that. So first up on the agenda is public forum, and if there's anyone here from public forum. And seeing no one, we'll move to the next item on our agenda, which is to ratify the appointment of a police officer tonight. Jim, if you could.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Come on up, Chief.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're correct. We do have minutes came up from last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the Select Board meeting minutes from August 23rd, 2022 as presented.
I'll second that.
And roll call vote.
David Hall, aye.
Jesse Lemanik, aye.
Jonathan Anderson, aye.
And Jeff Bannon, aye. And now we'll move on.
Moving on right along. Tonight, I'm presenting Donald Lemieux to the board for ratification as a full-time police officer. Just recently attended and graduated from the academy. Was it Plymouth? No. Plymouth Academy. Had a nice show online, YouTube, if you could see it, marching down the street. You know, the chief, we interviewed and selected him. He was in the academy at the time, about to graduate. Perfect fit for the town of Sutton. And I'll turn it over to Chief if he has anything in addition to add.
That's great, Chief.
Thanks for having us tonight. As Jim had mentioned, he was part of our hiring process and ultimately was selected. He attended and completed 22-week police academy in Plymouth, which I'm sure were probably the best 22 weeks of his life. And without further introduction, I'll allow Mr. Lemieux to introduce himself.
Good evening. Thank you all for letting me be a part of your town. It was definitely 22 weeks. Felt like a long time, but at the end it went by fast. According to everybody in the family, they said that it went fast for them. So it was good to be them.
That's good.
I'm Donald Lemieux. I'm in Webster, Mass. I live with my wife and kids. I'm just happy to be here. I had a great interview with the chief, and I'm glad that they selected me to be a part of their team.
Terrific. All right. If you don't mind, we'll just go around and the board and maybe ask you a few questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first of all, welcome. Congratulations. Congratulations on completing the academy. By all accounts, that is a task. So
Thank you.
It's great to have officers that have completed that. You know, I hope you already have the sense. What we like to say here is that you know, we're really proud of our police force. We think you're going to have great folks to work with. And hopefully learn a lot. And, you know, Webster's fairly local, so you're probably sort of familiar with the locality in general. But we're just grateful to have you and wish you well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, David. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Don or Donald?
Dawn's fine.
For Dawn is
Yep.
fine, okay. Well, as my colleague said, welcome to Sutton. We are a great little proud town, and I don't want to besmirch any of our neighboring communities, but yeah, we take a lot of pride in our police force. You know, the SPD, you know, they just want to run a tight ship. A lot has to do with the leadership. A lot have to do with, you know, the officers all the way down to the patrolmen. But our community is really, really proud of our department. At least in my time on the board, it's always been very community-oriented. You see, although I don't know what happened to the signs, but there was one point, you know, had all the signs, you know, we love the Sutton Police Department all around town. I had mine stolen, didn't file any charges though. But yeah, it's a tough town. It's a tough town. No, but seriously, it's just a wonderful community that is really going to be appreciative of you and the work that you do. And I wish you the best of luck. That's for sure. And as I usually remind, or at least mention all the new incoming patrolmen, is I have a red F-150. No. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jesse. Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to welcome you to Sutton and congratulate you on graduating the academy. And, you know, I just wanted to thank you for your service and your willingness to serve the town of Sutton. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jonathan. So welcome, as my colleagues have said, to Sutton. You know, you have a tough job. You know, you do a lot of things that, I won't speak for these guys, but I certainly couldn't do, and really don't want to know everything about it. But there's a lot of responsibility that goes with that, there's a lot of responsibility really to uphold the values of the department, which were 2 years ago. The department codified those, actually put pen to paper and said, these are the values that we cherish here. So, so you have a lot of responsibility, and we put a lot of faith in you that you'll uphold those values and keep us safe. So. We wish you the best. Congratulations, Chief, for a successful recruiting process. That's great. So we will take a motion, I think, to ratify Mr. Lemieux.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Donald Lemieux, a full-time police officer, effective August 23rd, 2022.
Second,
All right, and we'll take a roll call vote on that.
David Hall, aye.
Jesse Lemanik, aye.
Jonathan Anderson, aye.
And Jeff Bannon, aye. And so now we can swear you in.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, no, Joe's going to be the publisher, huh, for Facebook? Get the right angle? Yeah. Give me on.
Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully perform the duties incumbent upon you as a police officer in accordance with the bylaws of the town of Sutton and the laws of the Constitution? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah, good luck.
See you, Joe.
Congratulations.
Yeah, nice seeing you.
All right, so next up, we've got to approve and sign an agreement with American Tower. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is, Tim, you want to come up? Tim worked side by side with me on this deal, this American Tower agreement that we've been working on for almost 2 years. And I think I've periodically kept the board up to date with what's going on. But we did kind of close the loop with some of the issues we were having and got to the point where we are tonight, ready for our signatures. Encapsulation, this is, American Tower owns the tower located at Stone School Road. They have always owned that tower. Now, in 2012, we entered into a deal with TriStar to purchase the future rights of that tower in 2024. So in 2012, we agreed with TriStar that 10 years or 12 years from that date, they would own that tower and have the rights to that tower. In exchange for that, we received $120,000. We used that money to purchase the Blue Jay property, and now we have a beautiful police station on that property. So that's how that happened. Now, fast forward 10 years later, or maybe 9 years later, because I think this started right around 2020, beginning of 21. American Tower bought out TriStar. So the tower isn't in 2024 going to go to TriStar, it's going to stay with American Tower. The problem is American Tower now has to deal with the agreement that TriStar entered into in 2012. And that was in 2024, the town would be paid $120,000 a year, plus 55% of the revenue share from all the tenants on that tower. Now, according to American Tower, that became cost prohibitive, and they were debating whether they wanted to, mothball the tower and do what they needed to do to abandon it, or renegotiate with the town and see if we were willing to do meet them somewhere in the middle. Their first offer was presented in January of 2021, I think, and it was for $900,000. We didn't do anything with that. We just sat on it, didn't respond, and in May, I think, of 2021, we received a follow-up call from a new representative of American Tower, Matthew Brennan, and he restarted the conversation that was started in January of 21. And he proposed a number of different options, four or five different options. The most attractive one for us was a lump sum payment. And that lump sum payment was, $1.1 million. I spoke with the board in executive session and, brought the deal to your attention. You encouraged to push for a little bit more. We did that, and we settled on $1.4 million. Tim did a lot of research back when this was going on, looking at the value of cell towers, the future technology, how a lot of the cellular technology is now becoming satellite coverage. You've probably read in the news about Elon Musk's Starlink program that he's authorized that over in Ukraine area to offer them satellite communications, which allows for essentially cellular communications. And that's becoming a worldwide effort, and it will be here shortly. So we figured, do we want to sit on 120,000 or and potentially 55% of the revenue share, knowing that American Tower has told us that's not cost feasible for us, we can't make that work? Do we want to call their bluff, or do we want to get a one-time payment of significant amount of money up front? And regardless of cell tower technology, if it's antiquated in 7-8 years, it doesn't matter. We got our money, we're all set, and we can go forward. So our decision was to push for the one-time payment of 1.4, and the fact is, all the rights that we had with TriStar continue with American Tower. It's a perpetual easement. It was a perpetual easement in 2012 that we negotiated. The only difference between the TriStar deal in 2012 and the American Tower deal we're currently looking at is elimination of the 55% revenue share. So there'll be no additional payments to the town beyond the $4 million, other than property tax, the personal property tax they pay for that tower. It's been, you know, a perfect operation. There have been no issues. They've worked well with Dave down at the transfer station, and Dave speaks highly of them, and it's been, pretty much been turnkey ever since I've been here, involved with it. So, again, American Tower has been the owner of that tower as long as I have been here, and there have been no issues. So, we are proposing tonight that the board sign these documents and make it official that the town will give up on the 55% of revenue share, continue with the perpetual easement in exchange for $1.4 million that we should have within the next month or so.
Great. Okay. David, you have some questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, as you said, Jim, we've been through this before, so I certainly don't have any interest in relitigating the terms here. It's really just questions about making sure it's clear about what we're doing here. So, you know, as you mentioned, the 1.4 number is a number that allows us essentially to take, you know, the town's risk out of the equation and deal with American Tower in terms of terms they can accept. I mean, certainly to the extent that they may have concerns over the way the deal was originally written, we could lose all of that revenue. So, that part I'm fine with. And you know, as I read through all of this, I guess just to say it out loud for clarity, this deal goes on as long as there's a cell tower there, as long as they wish to operate that cell tower.
That's correct.
And the only question I have is what, and I think it's answered in the documents pretty clearly, but, you know, what would happen if something happened to their business and they found themselves unable to operate the tower, even though the tower itself was still operable? And it seems like it's clear that if they essentially abandon it, we could reclaim the easement at that point.
Yes, and there's also some provisions in the contract that forces them to essentially follow the original plan of dealing with the tower. You can't leave a tower up that eventually needs to be taken down. It's not a liability for the town. It's their property, and if they vacate that site, then there will be steps for the town to take to force them to remove the tower and put it back to its original state.
Yeah. I mean, it seems hard to believe if there's an ongoing revenue stream that they wouldn't have a way of kind of protecting that asset. And then, as you say, I guess if there's some future period where cell towers are no longer relevant, then they still have responsibilities.
Yeah,
That's,
you know, that's really what we negotiated over for the last 12 months, is these tiny little details whose probability is pretty much nil, but there's still a possibility that they could walk away. And then what do? If they leave a 55-gallon drum of something on the site, what are our recourses? And that's where town council, Sharon Everett, that was the lead on this whole project, was really on them about, you've got to address this. We're not going to allow it to go forward without you. And this, you'll see some specific language where that's addressed.
Yeah, I was going to say, for the benefit of the public, there's clear language with the papers that we have that indicate if they dispose of any hazardous waste there, that's an automatic reason for us to be able to terminate this whole agreement. So, you know, from my perspective, that's really all. I think, as I said, we've talked about it before. I'm very comfortable with how we got to this number and the process we've been through, so I'm more than happy to sign this. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Great, Dave, thanks. Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be honest with you, I Dave pretty much summarized, my thoughts on this. We talked about this. This was an ongoing process. I agree with you because we had private conversations in terms of, the future of technology. And I look at this figure, the 1.4 number, if we were to get the revenue share, I think you calculated that it was going to be 25, 30 years of the equivalence, and where are we going to be 30 years from now? So, to me, I think we are protecting the best interests of the town, we're getting the money up front, and if the technology goes away 10, 15 years, we'll be ahead in the game. And I also agree with the breakdown of the funds that you put into your letter to us. I like that, I like the idea of some of it going to roads, some of it going to OPEB, and with the residual going to free cash.
Yeah, just for the public's, the audience, that, our plan is to put 500,000 towards roads, 500,000 towards our OPEB liability, and 400,000 remains in free cash for future appropriation. So whatever needs in future we have, as soon as free cash is certified by DOR, June 30th of 2023, that will be available for future appropriations.
And we can take that revenue to buy other capital items, or whatever it is at the point we need.
Yeah.
The last point that I want to make in terms of the contract language, a lot of it's boilerplate, but what Dave alluded to in terms of responsibilities, those are assignable. So if for some reason the tower is sold again, the requirements that the town has in our agreement will transfer to the new owner.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I thank you, Jim and Tim, for the work you put it in. Thank you to town council. I think our interests are definitely protected for the foreseeable future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jesse. Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks, Jim. Sure. Thanks, Tim, for putting this together. I agree with my colleagues. I'm in the exact same position. I agree with the position that you've taken. Looking at this over a 30-year period, this would be, probably a better, safer deal for us, taking our risk out over the time. The only thing that just kind of came to my thought as we were just discussing this is particularly around the unlikelihood, but the possibility, remote possibility, that they abandon the equipment. And I know from my planning board experience, sometimes like with solar farms or things like that, or large construction projects, we would require a bond or a tri-party agreement where there's some money put in so that if they do abandon it, the money's there to then deal with the equipment. It's the only thought that I have. It's probably well beyond that at this point, but.
Yeah, I think town council's addressed it in the document, but they can't abandon the site. They can't just leave it as a liability for the town. It's their property. We've given them an easement on our property to operate it, but if they leave it vacant or abandoned, they need to resolve that. If they don't, then we will, have standing within the courts and enforce the action.
Yeah.
But, let's hope that
Yeah,
doesn't happen,
it's
but
remote.
it's a possibility.
Yep. So that was my only thought.
Sure.
That just popped in my mind when we were discussing it. But
Yeah.
I know we're pretty far down the path, but all right. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jonathan. I think I'm in the same state of mind, I think, as everyone else. And it's not a surprise that it's coming up. We've heard about it. And I guess just the one question I had, is really for Tim on it, is the 1.4 million is going to be appropriated for roads, OPEB, free cash. The annual payments that we would have gotten would have been part of the operating budget. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I think there's some trade-off there that we're taking it out of the annual operating budget and appropriating it this other way. And I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that, or if you had previously factored that into your forecasts and so forth.
I have, over the last few years, purposely underestimated our cell tower rental revenue. So it's not going to be as big a hit as you might think, losing 120,000. Obviously, the 55% revenue share is not in it because it hasn't kicked in yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've been budgeting about 80,000. So it's an $80,000 loss in estimated receipts, but, we have more than enough in other areas to compensate for that.
even the 120,000 hasn't taken place. That's future revenue in 2024, so this is anticipation. So
Yep.
we haven't included that in our budget at this point in time.
Right, I just didn't know how, with the forecast and everything, how much, that cliff and,
Yeah, these
potential.
numbers weren't included in our
Okay.
5-year forecast.
All right, good.
We didn't anticipate in 2024 we'd be getting 120 plus revenue share.
Okay, good. That's really all that, my thoughts on it. I had really the same thoughts that the rest have had, with potential liabilities, but it's all, the documents kind of spell everything out, so I'm good with it. So if we can have a motion, we can.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to authorize Select Chairperson to sign on behalf of the Select Board the agreement to amend easement by, wait, are you in the right one, or?
Yeah.
Easement by and between American Towers LLC and the town of Sutton.
Second that.
Okay, and no other comments or questions, take a roll call vote.
David Hall, aye.
Jess Lemanik, aye.
Jonathan Anderson, aye.
And Jeff Bannon, aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve and sign the first amendment to easement and assignment agreement by and between the town of Sutton, the grantor, and the American Tower LLC, the grantee.
Second.
And we'll take a vote on that as well.
David Hall, aye.
Jesse Lemanik, aye.
Jonathan Anderson, aye.
And Jeff Bannon, aye.
Just for the board's information, if we receive the revenue prior to fall town meeting, we'll probably have those appropriations for OPEB and the road work on the fall town meeting warrant. And, then we'll have the money available to go out and, Matt Stencil working on some future roads.
Great, okay. Do you anticipate that happening?
I do.
All right. Okay, next up then is town manager's update. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few updates for the board's consideration. First is the elevator upgrades. The state of Massachusetts had a change in interpretation of the elevator code, resulting in the town having to upgrade elevators within Town Hall and the new police station. We have to change the stop switch in the elevators, which technically I can't tell you what that is, but this change will support firefighters responding to an emergency situation. Apparently, there was an issue in some other state where firefighters weren't able to control the elevator, and that's according to Roger Raymond, but that occurrence kind of got the Massachusetts code writers to redefine the code and make this change. It's going to cost us about $8,500 for the elevator at Town Hall, probably another $4,000 for the elevator down at the police station, and the school department has already taken care of their elevators, so. It's unfortunate, but if it's for firefighter safety, then I think it needs to be done. But continuation of the fiber project. We will, as soon as we get some information, but we're really close to signing a contract with Comtract, which will allow us to start installation of fiber in the Wilkinsonville neighborhood. We will run from the tower behind Town Hall, down Boston Road, across 146, connect the highway department, leave a loop or something, Maynard can define this better than I can, but a loop there so we can put cameras on 146 to see if there's an accident or something, we can, quickly identify that. Then bring it down to essentially a loop to hang at the Wilkes Fire Station, Station 3, and then continue to the Sutton Housing Authority. But then they will do the major loop up to the tower on Dodge Hill Road, the water tower, 100-foot tower for communications that the town installed a few years ago. So that's the first half of that loop. The second half is coming down Dodge Hill Road to Central Turnpike, coming across Central Turnpike, and then coming down towards terminating at Huff Road. So that You know, we've been in so many different phases of this fiber project, but that, from Dodge Hill Road to Huff Road is the final phase. But to do that, we need to have National Grid install 8 to 10, what are they? Poles, telephone poles, which will allow, and they're, you know, going across Central Turnpike, across 146, they got to be higher than normal, and there's some technology involved with that. So we've got the order in with National Grid. We've been essentially told that it's going to happen, but not right away. So while we're working with Comtract on the Huff Road project, finishing off that stretch, which is nearly complete, we can now order the fiber that will allow them to bring it and terminate at Dodge Hill Road. Shortly thereafter, hopefully within the next year or so, National Grid installs those telephone poles and allows us to continue and do a further agreement with Comtract with some state bid list, and they can run that final loop. And then we'll have a completely redundant system. If a car hits a pole on one side, we can reroute it instantaneously, you wouldn't even know it. Constant communications, because fiber doesn't go away. If you don't have line of sight, or if you have something blocking it, you don't have microwave towers that communicate, you can just communicate over fiber, assuming you have routers on the tower. It makes it simple. And then, you know, we've got a great public safety communication system, thanks to this board and the town meeting. But this brings it to the final step, which is good news. So one other thing is we've gotten significant state money to complete this project. Thanks to Ryan and Joe McKenna, we received a $250,000 earmark from the state, originally $200,000, but we just found out it was $250,000 now. And we also, Pam Nichols, put together a grant with the help of Paul Maynard and Dan Durgan, but she submitted that grant and got awarded an additional $200,000. So we got $450,000 plus the capital appropriation that town meeting appropriated. So we've got enough money, we just need to get it started, and there's a long lead time on some of this fiber, so I'm gonna get it started. And finally, the town manager's evaluation. We've enclosed a copy for the board. We're planning on having the evaluation on the 27th, and if the board can complete the evaluation by the 19th, it'll give Deb a chance to compile the results and have it ready for the 27th review. And that's all I have for updates, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jim. David, do you have any questions?
Sure, thank you. Thanks for the update, Jim. You know, I agree with you. If this is, if the elevators are a safety issue for firemen, we should do it. And if the state's mandating it, I guess we also should do it. So that's how it goes. So I assume that this is all going to come out of the current budget and will have to just be dealt with at some point.
Yeah, we're planning on a fall town meeting appropriation. We've got a number of items that we've got to take care of from the May town meeting. You know, the state didn't approve their budget until sometime in late July, maybe even August. So we've got to fix some overages and underage, and you know, we just hired a new assessor at a little bit more than was budgeted, and other small changes. So that'll be one of the changes.
Okay. You know, I'm glad you said this about the fiber project, that there's been so many parts to this. So, you know, this is if I have this correct, this is something we've talked about in the past. It's even some appropriations in there. This is not a new element to it that you know, it's just a matter of how long it takes to actually get the work done.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm grateful for the way that you said it. I think this board has been very committed to trying to complete the public safety communications network around town for a long time now. I mean,
Yeah.
pretty much everybody sitting here, you and I have had sat in many meetings talking about this over the years, and so, you know, this is hopefully looking at the end of this, and I look forward to having that done. And since she's in the room, thanks to Pam for the work for getting the grant together, so.
Yeah.
I guess that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Jesse?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the update, Jim. Actually, I'll be honest with you, when I read the first update in regards to the elevators, the first thing that went through my head is, oh my God, we gotta scrap the elevator, we gotta remove it, particularly the police department one where it was new. I could see town hall, you know.
Yeah.
I know that's one of the older pieces of apparatus, but yeah, I suppose it's a hassle, it's a headache, it's a nuisance, but at the end of the day, you know, if, you know, the fire department can take control of it, I imagine it's so that way they can get personnel or equipment up or rescue, get people down, you know, it's short money, particularly if someone's life is at threat, so, you know, it's kind of funny. I remember back when I was at UMass and I lived in one of the towers, and just trying to get an elevator to get to your dorm room was a hassle in itself. And there were 3 shafts. So in a building as tiny as Town Hall, you know, God forbid something happens up here in a meeting, you know, it's not a lot of space, but just having that control, it's definitely worth it. I imagine this will be a quick repair, upgrade,
Yeah,
whatever.
that's my understanding. I have the quote here. It's relatively straightforward, but it's a number of different steps that are costly, so,
Yep.
you know, it needs to get done,
I'll have faith that it will get done correctly.
Yeah.
As far as the fiber goes, yeah, as I think, Dave, you said it best, you know, this is not something new. Even the funds, the proceeds, we've talked about this many, many times, and it's been a lot of work on your behalf, Tim, Maynard in particular, Pam, and everyone else who's involved, so I think at the end of the day, when we finally get it down to Huff Road and that last connection is made, I think there'll be a lot of people that will rest easy.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, I remember going around with a ride-along, and back in the day, when we only had maybe 80% coverage in town, if we were lucky, being down near Manchog Pond, sitting in a cruiser, and just being completely disconnected. So with all of the investment that we made, we've brought our communications package into the 21st century. And like my comments with the elevator, if this results in one life being saved, then it's money well spent. So congratulations, we're almost there. Maybe we should get like a coax cable or something, you know, you can make a trophy out of it, and keep it as on your desk.
Talk to Maynard about that.
Yeah. And last but not least, the evaluation. Well, I guess we'll talk about that in the future, so. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr.
Jesse.
Chairman.
Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Jim, for your update.
Sure.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious about the elevator as far as, you know, it seems like a code change, and with any code change, it usually costs us something. Did you happen to get any feedback from Chief Balsito about this, like what his thoughts were, or if he feels there's
You know,
a real risk?
I didn't. You know, but I could. That would be a worthwhile conversation. You know, anecdotally, I heard from Roger Raymond that, you know, there's a result of an issue that happened a couple states away, and, you know, people have their own opinions, whether it's an overreaction, whether we're just kind of, but, you know, in the end, it's a small little price to pay for a potential that could happen. You know, Matt, he'll deal with anything. If the elevator's falling, he'll stop it and make it work. But I think it's good to make these upgrades.
Yeah, I don't disagree either, but I'm also curious to what his thoughts are as well, because maybe he doesn't think it's, I don't know.
Yeah, no, and if he, you know, if he doesn't support this, we still got to do it. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't
So,
matter.
you know, it would be helpful, it's interesting to know what his opinion is.
Yeah.
And in the end, doesn't matter, as much as we respect him.
Yeah. As far as the fiber project goes, I think this is the final, you know,
Yeah.
hurdle. So between the money that we're getting from the grant and the money we got from that Ryan and Joe were able to get for us, will there be any additional money that the town will have to kick in, or?
I don't think so. This project, the bid is $279,000 to complete all of the offshoots as well as terminating at Dodge Hill Road. And that'll be 280 roughly, out of the 450. But we still have 150,000 from a capital appropriation. I don't know whether that was this last spring or the spring before. So my expectation is we'll have more than enough money to complete that loop. We did have a proposal to bypass that Central Turnpike where there are no towers or poles, sorry. But it was cross-country, it was an ugly route to get there, and it was more costly and more fiber and everything else. I think we'll wait for the poles to be installed, and then we'll do it the right way.
All right.
So,
All right, that's all I have.
Thank you, Jonathan. I don't know that I can really add much to what has been said already. Just a question on the chief. Can he get some of his guys to fix that, like he did with the
with
gas
the
tank?
Yeah, I'll ask.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And the fiber, we've been talking about it for a very long time, and it kind of struck me as when you were talking about the American Tower, maybe we can do an Elon Musk kind of thing no?
Yeah.
All right. So
I'll take into consideration.
that's all I have. There's nothing I can add to what's been said already, so I'm glad to see that come to an end.
Can I add one more update, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
I just wanted to update the board about an upcoming expanded environmental notification program plan that Unified Development, Unified Global Packaging Group has to go through. I think you've all received a copy of this on your desk. The Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act, MEPA, is requiring, what is this, in the old days used to be called a scoping session, bless you. And it's essentially an opportunity for everybody to submit feedback on their thoughts of potential environmental issues, traffic issues, or other concerns of this development of the unified parcel. On Friday, Friday the 9th at 11 a.m., Friday the 9th at 11 a.m., there's a Zoom meeting that we will post on the town's website that anybody can get access to on the front page. And everybody's invited to this. They are looking at significant possible environmental impacts. Anybody's entitled to their thoughts and opinions on this development. It is a public process. They did mention that comments from agencies, officials, and citizens regarding possible environmental issues, if any, are significant for this project. So,
I guess I just had some questions when I got this as to whether or not this was a single point of contact from the town to MEPA, or I guess didn't expect you to say it was going to be open to the public and.
Yeah, it is. They advertise this live Zoom meeting, that there's instructions on how you would join that. They are offering interpretation in Spanish, and so they're trying to make this a transparent process at the state level. I'm not really familiar with the MEPA process as it pertains to this project, but as far as I know, they talk about the full project, full build project, which is 448 acres of a former gravel pit into a phased warehouse and distribution center, and in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and they talk about all these details in this letter that we received. So I will put as much information as I can get on the website for people to see this information, and
But we're not, as a town, having an official response to
no,
this.
we don't have an official role in it. I would think If somebody has an environmental issue that hasn't been addressed at the Conservation Commission, which most likely it has been, so I don't think any town officials would say that some of the issues that have been presented haven't been dealt with at the local level. But this takes it above and beyond the town level to the state.
Okay. All right. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts or questions.
Good.
You all set, Jesse?
I actually do, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but I'm gonna ask it anyways.
Yeah.
And if you can't, it's no big deal.
All right.
On this meeting, you mentioned that the public's invited. Will they have the ability to comment live, or do they have to submit comments or questions in advance, you know?
That is a good question. It doesn't say in this letter.
Because I've attended some of these large forums where they did not want any type of comment, and I've attended some where they allowed you in the Zoom box to, you know, write your questions in and submit them that way. And then I've been in some where you actually had, like I said, submit it in advance. So if you could find that out, that might be helpful for any resident who might have the time and ability to kind of zoom in.
Yeah, I will do that and put that interpretation on the town's website and, but it does say that opinions to the extent and significance of possible environmental impact will be welcome. So whether that's in writing, if they don't accept them verbally because there are too many people in attendance and they have to get it done by a certain period of time, I'm sure comments would be welcome in writing as well.
All right, perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Jonathan?
Yeah, I have one question around just where this information will be posted. Is there a place people can find, like, the meeting information and how they can attend it if they want to?
Yeah, I'll have Pam and have it posted on the front page of the website, and all the details will be there.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, so I'm all set with that as well. Okay, so now, next up is announcements, select board, roundtable, correspondence, and other business topics. David?
Thank you. Pam Nichols asked if I might make a couple of announcements on behalf of the Sutton Cultural Council. First off, the last concert on the Common for this season is the Hofbrauhaus Bavarian Band, Thursday, September 15th at 6 p.m. right on the Sutton Town Common. Sounds like a good time. German music, maybe some German, no German beer, no. Also, the grant cycle is now open. So I'm going to read the whole thing because it's interesting. Organizations, schools, and individuals may apply for local grants that support cultural activities such as community-oriented arts, humanities, and science programs in the town of Sutton. Proposals are due to the Sutton Cultural Council by October 17th. Visit the Cultural Council Board page on the town website or their Facebook page. And lastly, the Cultural Council has a survey. You can take the survey. They're looking for feedback for their next funding cycle. So more information is also available on the Cultural Council Board page on the town website or their Facebook page, or you can reach out to Pam Nichols directly. Thank you.
All set?
I am.
Thank you, David. Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one, that's just a reminder of something I mentioned at the last meeting. On September 17th, Saturday, the Dudley General is having our annual chicken barbecue / community day / 9/11 remembrance. In terms of the 9/11 remembrance, that's going to be the first component of it. It's going to kick off around noon. I invited my colleagues, sent some invites out to some of the state officials. Hopefully we'll be able to hold at least a solemn remembrance of the tragic event that occurred not that long ago, at least in our memory, and have an opportunity to remind the young people who were present, of the significance of that day. That event itself take about a half hour, 45 minutes, open to the public, and then the chicken barbecue begins. And I think there's a lot of community groups that are going to come and participate this year. I know we have the Parks group that's involved in Veterans Field, the Boy Scouts. So if you have nothing to do on September 17th, swing by the Dud, and the town is welcome.
Great.
And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr.
Jesse.
Chairman.
John?
I have no updates today.
Okay. I have nothing else for an update as well. So I guess at this point, we will be entering into executive session and pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and the chair does declare. We will also be entering back into regular session for adjournment only.
Roll call vote. David Hall, aye.
Jess Lemanik, aye.
Jonathan Anderson, aye.
And Jeff Bannon, aye.